All right. Thank you for joining me for another episode of RVD Rips Pokémon. This is yours truly, RVD. Today we will be reviewing how the 2025 year went for me personally. Um, Things that went right, things that went wrong, and take this time to review these moments as my collecting journey continues to move forward into the new year, and how we can apply those principles going forward, whether things to avoid or things to continue doing as we venture on. So I think we can all agree 2025 was an interesting year. Personally, I think it was a pretty good year for me overall. I guess we can decide that at the end as we review where I am now with my goals. One thing I think we can all decide is that this will be a memorable year. I guess you could say probably a historic year in the hobby that will be looked back upon for decades to come. And that could be from 2024 through 2026. It could span this entire era where, the hobby shifted pretty dramatically, rapidly ahead with a lot of new market participants. So I think this will be an era to look back on. And even as we move into 2026, look back on this year to see if we can apply those principles going forward and continue to grow our collection, our goals, reach them as we move on. So 2025 was the year that I went all into Pokemon wholeheartedly. It was for most of the year, it was all I wanted to do, was grow my collection, reach some of my goals, my sealed collection goals, my raw collection goals. So I went all in, ventured in many different branches of the hobby, whether that be vending, trade events, opening up online storefronts on TCG Player, really going after accumulating products that I did not have up to then, and trying to really get a good position where I felt comfortable after this era kind of ended, this year ended, being in a position that I felt comfortable in. So I believe I achieved that. I think just real quickly before we go back or go into 2025, looking back on 2024 matters. They're all kind of tied together. So end of 2024, I was not personally very in tune with the Pokemon market. I was slowly trickling back in, as I kind of relayed in my last video, when it came to singles, collecting a lot of raw singles. One thing that I did though, as I went through that whole process, I really wasn't able to find sealed after searching Sparks. So I started really doing a lot of research in the raw singles market, becoming acclimated to the different eras, the different Pokemon, what sets make good investments, even from a singles perspective, not necessarily even just a sealed collection perspective. Things like scarcity, print runs, how big the set is, those kind of principles. I was doing a lot of research, although I wasn't able to accumulate a lot of sealed product in the end of 2024. It did help me kind of really give me the foundation of what to look out for, what I think is a good buy, and what to avoid at the same time. So late 2024, raw singles started to explode. So I was able to, learn a lot about what I enjoyed about this hobby, singles, collecting, trying to catch up. I guess you could say I experienced FOMO, but at the end of 2024, prices weren't that high on a lot of these raw singles. They did start to explode. There was a huge sell-through rate. You could see that happening all over on TCG Player with a lot of the different eras. I was, somewhat ahead of the curve on that. But it really set my foundation and principles on, do research, don't just buy whatever, buy what you enjoy and what you believe in. And I did that. I continue to do that. I don't like to buy things that I don't believe in, because 2-3 months from now, if I need some capital and I'm looking at that product, I'm just thinking, why did I buy this? It's just collecting dust at that point. And then I just want to sell it. So instead of doing that, buy what you believe in, buy what you think based on your principles. And then at least even if it doesn't work out, you'll be happy with such things, right? So one of the just a small tangent. For instance, one of those things that I did as I came back into the hobby and started becoming acclimated to it was I grew an affinity to Mimikyu, and I guess this can stem back from the competitive game. Mimikyu was a really good card in the game. He could pretty much prevent any damage from even my Charizards and all these other huge Pokemons, and just he's a small basic Pokemon, and it's just he grew some. I grew an affinity to him, and I started collecting his cards. And I thought his cards was cool, his art was cool. It's just different, right? It's a different Pokemon, not like many other Pokemon, but something that I kind of was drawn to early on in my getting back into collecting. And a lot of my Mimikyu singles have done really well. I was getting the Trainer Gallery Mimikyu V from Brilliant Stars for $15, just buying a bunch of those, things like that. Which helped build my collection now as I was able to unload some of those as those went up. So do what you feel comfortable with, is the point I'm saying, what and what you believe in. And I think you'll ultimately, this market will treat you right. Not having to get FOMO or bite off more than you could chew. I think you'll be okay. So anyways, as we go into 2025, I was not able to find any sealed product much at the end of 2024. The first main set that came out, or I guess you could say specialty high-end set, was Prismatic Evolutions. So that was the next set out, that the release date. So that's kind of what I went hand and fist on, not really knowing too much about the set. Knew it was Eevee sets. My kids liked Eevee, so I was trying to get as much as just trying to get any, honestly. Had no idea about the hysteria, the shortages, how difficult it may have been to get this product. So it was something that, I went on release day, went to my local GameStop, tried to, find just get what I can, ETBs, tech stickers, whatever it was. Even at that point in time, I wasn't familiar with all the different products from each set, like the specialty sets of tech stickers, poster collections, binder collections, ETBs, so on and so forth. So becoming more accustomed to those. So I was trying to get Prismatic, and it became pretty evident early on that Prismatic, if you could get it at MSRP, great, but even opening it at MSRP turned out to be a fool's errand. It's a very brutal set, not something that I enjoyed opening very much. So instead of opening it, we did open a good amount. I think, we opened probably 60 packs. We pulled an SIR, Dragapult, and that was enough. And I was like, okay, I'm not opening this set anymore. It's just financially irresponsible to open. So why would I continue to do that? But even on the back end, you could see, the secondary market prices for these products. Although I'm paying $5 a pack for it, it's selling for 10, 11, 12 bucks secondary. Why would I, if I'm trying to collect and grow my collection, why would I be opening this product? So it just didn't make sense to me, right? And I'm sure it still doesn't make sense to open that set as of now. So didn't make sense to me, and I made the decision, hey, I'm just going to collect as much of this sealed as I can, whether I use that to just hold on to as an investment, or I trade to get products that I want. I'm just not gonna rip it and see what ultimately comes from not doing that. Try to acquire as much as I can, and see how that turns out. Now, around that same time, there was another product I don't think a lot of people are talking about that I think kind of did also jumpstart the market, which was Blooming Waters, the premium collection for 151. That was a new 151 product. I think it was the last one, more or less one of the last 151 products created. And that also did energize the market a good amount. It really, Costco's got a bunch of them. I think Best Buy had some, maybe some Targets got some at that time. But that was a set, kind of like Prismatic, which was highly desirable early 2025. And I think that product releasing in conjunction with with Prismatic releasing pretty much around the same exact time, really put the market in hyperdrive. So, until Blooming Waters had come out, I'd never opened a 151 pack ever. So as soon as I got some, we got 4 from Costco. We ripped them all, me and my family. It was awesome, excellent opening experience, and that was a product that really jumped out to me. It's saying, hey, I also want to get a position, sealed position of this product as well. This is, it was an older set, so I was still at that time learning about what constitutes a good buy and hold. And that would be the older sets that are more likely to, a year or 2 years old, that are on the point of being rotated out in the competitive trading card game. So I made a decision at that time, with Prismatic and 151, that I wanted to accumulate as much as this product as I could, and hold it and see what happened, right? Not necessarily flipping immediately, although if I needed to, get, raise some capital real quickly, I could do that, right? And they were very liquid products, and that's when, I didn't have a goal early in 2025. But that was, it became very evident that was, starting a sealed collection and seeing where I could take it, was my goal in 2025. Where the end game was in early 2025, I didn't know. And I don't necessarily know if I have an exact end game now, right? Will I ever be happy having enough? I don't know. I'm like a hoarder. I just want to buy. So if I can, and the opportunity's there, the price is right, and I have the vision, then I still am buying, and I am buying even now. So Prismatic came out, Blooming Waters, and I was just buying as much as I could find retail. And at that time, I was not very knowledgeable about my local market, how to source products at MSRP from retail. It was very difficult, very competitive, and there wasn't a lot of channels, networks, or resources to kind of guide you of where to go, what time, when were these products restocking, where, so on. So it was a big it was a big commitment to learn all those things and put the time, energy, resources into understanding my area and how I can acquire these products at MSRP to hold for the long run. I still believe, obviously, if you can get products wholesale, that is in hold, that is the best. That's probably the best way to invest in Pokemon. I would say there's not, there's a good number of people that are able to do that, but I'd say more than not, there's more people not able to. So being able to buy MSRP right now is, or at least early in 2025, was a great way to grow your sealed collection and investment. And I just wholeheartedly disagreed with paying market price as an investment at that time, especially with some of these newer sets that were just being out. I still don't advocate for buying products at market, right when they're released, just because there's too much risk involved. And I wasn't, that wasn't the most expedient way I could grow my collection. So I turned to retail. So fast forward, goal just became evident. Accumulate as much 151 and Prismatic as I could, and see where that brings me. Journey Together, was the next set that came out after Prismatic, and so at that time I was able to find a good amount of product, but of those sets that I was keying in on, but still, you don't understand how, there may not seem to be a lot of product going out, but still you have to manage a bankroll, right? And you have to manage your risk exposure, how much capital you're putting into this. So to achieve the goals that I wanted, it became apparent that I needed to just cut out some sets and not jump into the hype on some of these new sets as well that we're releasing, and just take a wait and see approach. And that strategy, I think, paid off pretty well for me in 2025. it meant that, hey, I wasn't necessarily catching the initial hype of a lot of these sets, but I was also taking a less risky approach too, just because new sets can be very volatile on release. And I was able to understand that just from my short experience in 2024 getting back into the hobby with Twilight Masquerade. Now I bought a box when Twilight released at 120, but I was also even at that time playing the card game, and the new Dragapult deck came out, the new Dragapult card in Twilight, and that was like a total change to the Pokemon meta, where people were, that was the card, that was the top deck, and people were pre-ordering it like crazy. And I even jumped in and pre-ordered some of just like the common and uncommons. Probably paid way more, like not too, like like $1 or $2 for commons and uncommons, and I bought, I pre-ordered the box for 120, and after launch for that set, I saw the price went down. Like a booster box went down to like $100, so I didn't lose. I wasn't like super underwater on those, even though I ripped it anyways. And then even the commons and uncommons, those tanked, and I was out, some 10-20 bucks on those. But even then, although I didn't lose a lot then, it kind of shaped, I was able to understand, hey, you got to be careful with pre-ordering, and some of these sets that release, there's a high likelihood that they're just going to go down in value from what you pre-ordered at. So that kind of shaped my perspective on how I was going to approach new sets that came out, and Journey Together was the next one. So I was cautious. I took a wait and see approach. I didn't really like the set. I think, it was a good set, but it didn't have the bearings of being a good set. And through my research, like I said, how big is the set? What are the pull rates of the set? Things like that. What's the it's a new set, so what's its life cycle, so on. And I didn't check any of the sets that, any of the boxes that I needed to FOMO or just buy in and hold a position early on into the set. So I just skipped it, and I just said, hey, people can rush to the hottest new item. I'm just going to stay with what I've been doing and see where that takes me. That, just continue to invest in the sets that I believe in, that I think will put me in the best financial position, short term, medium term, and ultimately long term, and what's going to help me get, meet and reach my collection goals. So I more or less skipped Journey Together. As I said, my goals became pretty quick. Journey Together came out, but it really did, help me understand what my goals were at that time, to continue to accumulate the sets that I believe in, and not buy into a lot of this FOMO. So Journey Together set flopped, as we all know, didn't do well. So that was a good play, wait and see approach. I think was a good play on Journey Together. I have one ETB from when it released, nothing else, and I'm okay with that. And as we can see, there's reprints hitting right now. Maybe not a bad time to get some booster bundles or something to add. So next set that actually came out shortly after, and we knew about it before JT, right, was Destined Rivals. And that was the set that I could see that there was a lot more excitement for that set rather than Journey Together. And if there were to be a set that I would like to get a good position in early on, it was going to be Destined Rivals. Now, even still, like I said, I was still having to manage my risk, exposure, how much money I wanted to allocate to Prismatic, how much money I was wanting to allocate to 151, Sword and Shield sets as well. How much money, Sword and Shield is an era that I definitely believed in, and it's, it was cheap for a very long time. You could find packs at retail $5-6, right? Depending on where you go. So those were kind of the sets that I was wanting to focus on, and I was able to accumulate a lot of it. So I didn't really necessarily have the capital to spend on a lot of these newer main sets that were coming out, and that included Destined Rivals. I did acquire a decent amount of Destined Rivals early on, not a whole bunch. I did still, I'd say, predominantly take the wait and see approach, and short term, medium term, that was wrong. I should have purchase more. I did pre-order a booster box at 250. That turned out to be okay. But those quickly went underwater after release to like down to like 210 or so, 220 maybe, before maybe a month went by and they shot up to $300. So I more or less did take a wait and see approach with Deaths and Rivals with the ETBs. I don't own any ETBs, unfortunately. I wish I did. But it wasn't that was a set that you could say defied past set releases, where it really didn't go down in value from the pre-order prices, and it made a lot of people tremendous gains in the short and medium term. Now fast forward to now, if you're still holding big bags of that stuff, then that probably wouldn't have been the best move to do, because there's a good size reprint happening right now. So we'll fast forward over to Black Bolt White Flare. I think it's kind of important to understand, or just relay that, during this time, the sentiment, Journey Together, 151, Prismatic was, hey, Pokemon Company International cannot catch up with demand, right? They're not able to print enough of this product to meet demand, or their, product. There's always rumors coming out, oh, the set's going to be short printed, right? There's always tons of rumors of that happening. That even happened with Black Bolt and White Flare. There was a big PokeBeach article that was probably a little bit misconstrued, that kind of made people, have a lot of FOMO for this set, that, hey, it was short printed, so on and so forth, right? I could say personally, just from my experience finding this product at retail, that it was certainly not short printed. And at that time too, a lot of retailers started upping the price of their products. ETBs for this set, specialty set, was $60 in ETB plus tax, so it came out to like 63, whatever, maybe $64. Bundles were like $32 plus tax, came out to close to $35 for a bundle. So the price point for me made it more risky for me on the short term, medium term. I did take a wait and see approach. I did buy a decent amount of ETBs though, but I moved on from them pretty early on, just because it was too risky to hold on to long term, and I honestly did not like the price point for these products. So the only Black Bolt and White Flare I own now from then is the PC ETBs, along with the Victini boxes, and just this week I was able to accumulate more of the Costco bundles for $4 a pack. So I got about 4 boxes of those. So I'm happy with the wait and see approach I took with Black Bolt and White Flare. Like I said, the increase in the price point from these major retailers, the retail price, kind of made me back off and be a little bit more cautious with this set. And then the goal didn't change during that time. Accumulate more 151, Prismatic. Paldean Fates as well started to really pop off around this time, shortly after Black Bolt and White Flare. I did mention this in one of my early live stream videos, that after between Black Bolt White Flare and between that point to Megas, that there was going to be the early Scarlet and Violet sets, there was going to be a big run up on them, which there was. Paldean Fates bundles went up to $100, 151 bundles went up to $100, and so I was trying to accumulate more of those products at retail, even around Black Bolt and White Flare. Again, not knowing exactly where I'm trying to go, but or exactly where I'm going to end up, but knowing the direction I want to head in, and that's why I just continued to stay the course. So, and then we'll get to just the mega sets, Mega Evolution. Now that was a set that I was not really hyped for, but I turned out to be wrong on that, and I quickly realized that I turned out to be wrong on that, and made up for it by accumulating a lot of products at retail, and quickly turning those, being able to capitalize on the hype around Mega Evolution. There was tons of hype. And I don't know necessarily why. I think it had a lot to do with the market dynamics, though, of it actually like products being delayed, where like plenty of stores didn't get any ETBs on release. So people were anxious to get their hands on products that they weren't able to on release. So I was able to get a good amount of units of those products at that time, and I was able to capitalize on that. And although I do believe in this set long term, Mega is a set I do believe in, along with Destined Rivals long term. The short to intermediate term play for my collection goals was not to sit on them very long. It was to sell them so I can reinvest it in products that I do believe in. For instance, like these Paldean Fates Great Test Collection boxes. So, and then that kind of leads us over to Phantasmal Flames, and I'll lump in the Charizard UPC with it, although it's not necessarily a Phantasmal product. It's, you know, it has Phantasmal products in packs in the UPC, but Phantasmal Flames was not a set that it was, again, one that I was very happy to just sit on the sidelines and wait and see what happened. I do own a booster box that I got from Pokemon Center and the 2 PC ETBs. Other than that, I own 0 Phantasmal products, and I'm happy that I've never purchased one single ETB. Not that, you know, well, I don't think it's a very good set. It has has 2 good Charizard cards, but from the principles that I kind of learned early on in 2024 about what makes a good set and a bad set, it again didn't check many of the boxes. The only boxes it checks is, you know, has Charizard in it. So good Charizard, I'll say that. But happy to sit on the sidelines for that, and happy with where I'm at now in 2025. So you might be asking, well, you know, I sat a lot on the sidelines in 2025. You know, you probably didn't have a good year. Yeah, and I would say you're correct to make that assessment from that. But what I was doing was not what necessarily other people were doing. You know, I would flip some. I would buy some of these new sets and flip them when I could make a good money on a good bit of profit on them when the net margin dollars were there, and reinvest it into products that I believed in. So I didn't necessarily take the same approach as a lot of people when it came to these sets. I was focusing on those specialty sets: 151 SV, 151 Paldean Fates, and Prismatic Sword and Shield products. Predominantly, that makes up all my portfolio, those 4 sets. Some specialty Pokemon Center ETBs, booster boxes here and there. But those are the sets I believe in, and the products that I continued to accumulate during this time. A lot of them being the products they released at Costco or Sam's Club, which is wholesale pricing, where I'm getting these specialty sets for $4 a pack instead of FOMOing into these new sets and getting burned by them. I just accumulated my money, just stayed smart, stayed the course, and purchase these products, a lot of these products at wholesale as much as I could. Focus more or less on specific types of products, booster bundles being one of them. Always going, you know, retail, always sticking with retail prices at the highest, right? If I couldn't get anything from Costco, etc. And wait to see how the market played out, and continue to just stay the course on the things that I believed in. So in total, just not for my singles collection, which, you know, I'm up very well on from, you know, just from even late 2024 to now. I'd say probably my singles and raw sealed slab collection, it's probably up over 100% with all those. And then I'm up over 100% with all the sealed plays that I have as well. And I invested, well over 5 figures, multiple 5 figures into my sealed collection. And I'm up over 100 and probably around 120%. So things I also did in 2025, from a sales perspective, I probably sold about $50,000 in sales. Now, revenue profit from that, I would say probably I didn't track everything, but probably like a 40% net margin. That's what I shoot to be, no less, with what I try to buy and flip. And if I determine this is an acceptable product to buy, what are, what's my short term, medium term, long term risk, and what's my margin in case I need to sell it. So sold well over 5 figures as well in 2025, and just kept on. Any profit I got from that would be to be reinvested into the products that I believed in, and wanted to acquire more of. So my position, I don't have any FOMO right now. I'm happy with the collection that I've been able to accumulate this year, and apply the principles, and believe that, and believe in what I'm doing to be best for my collection goals and investment goals. And it's turned out to be a really good year. So in closing, I think, try to set some goals for what you guys are trying to accomplish in this hobby. Follow your principles. Sometimes it's not always easy. Sometimes you want to buy, into some of this stuff, but make sure it checks the boxes that are dear to you or mean something to you, before you make that decision. We're going into 2026. I am just as excited about 2026 as when I went all in 2025. Now I have better understanding of the market dynamics right now, and I have just more trust in myself to know, hey, I'm okay skipping this, or I really need to go, heavy into this area. I'm okay with making those decisions, and I'm at peace with them. So I'm looking forward to 2026, and I'll give in my next video a forecast about how I see 2026 going, and ultimately where it's going to go and what my strategy is going to be. So again, thanks for being here. Real quickly, I know this is a long video, probably not many of you are left here, but if you could like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, that would mean a lot to me. And like this video. So I'm trying to continue to do this. It's still relatively new, but I appreciate you guys spending the time with me today. 2025 is a big year. There's a lot to cover. A lot happened in 2025. It's not a very easy, there's a lot of stuff that happened microly, macroly, and it's the direction you want to take it. You could take it in all types of directions. So 2025, was a crazy year. Excellent year. Very happy. Had some of the best times of my life this year, and I hope to do it again in 2026. So next video, we'll come back and we'll take a look at what my plans are for 2026, and my goals for 2026. So thank you all. Have a good one.